Okay, so we've got a pretty interesting one today.
Yeah.
Looks like someone sent in a whole stack of stuff on The Alchemist.
Oh, wow.
We've got like reviews, articles, even some personal notes in here.
Huh.
So it feels like someone is really trying to decide if it's worth the read,
That's fair. I mean, it is one of those books that people tend to either love or hate.
Right.
But yeah, by the end of this deep dive, you'll definitely know if it's for you.
That's the goal. And I'm already a little confused, to be honest.
Oh.
Yeah, just looking through these notes. Some people are calling it like life-changing, and others are saying it's just a bunch of cliches.
Yeah, I mean,
So who is this book actually for?
well, that's the big question, isn't it? I think it comes down to the book's simplicity.
Okay,
The Alchemist, it's a pretty simple story.
like a fable.
Yeah, exactly. It's about this shepherd named Santiago who follows his dreams to find treasure in Egypt.
That does sound simple.
But see, that's what makes it so interesting.
Okay.
Because that simplicity, that's what people either love or hate about it.
So some find it profound and others think it's lacking depth.
Exactly.
Huh. Okay, so where do we even start with this one?
Well, I think we have to start with the writing style.
Okay.
Coelho uses very simple language, which, again, can be either good or bad, depending on what you're looking for.
So some people are going to find it poetic and others are going to think it's like childish or something.
Yeah, basically it's like, think of like a really nicely written folk tale, Some people love that style and others want something more complex.
Yeah, I see that in some of these reviews too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some are calling the writing trite.
Right.
I even saw one they called it contrived.
Huh. So is that fair?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the reader.
Yeah. I mean, one reviewer, Sarah, I think, she said that Coelho's writing felt forced, like he was trying too hard to make it sound like a fable.
And I guess that can come across as trite.
Right. And then there are all those big pronouncements about life and destiny,
Like when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people find those lines really inspiring, but...
But others just roll their eyes.
Exactly.
I'll admit, I'm kind of in the eye-rolling camp on that one.
Really?
Yeah, it feels a little oversimplified. Like what about hard work and, like actual reality?
Yeah, that's a valid point. I mean, another reviewer, Christopher, he argued that it could actually be kind of dangerous,
Dangerous how?
Well, to just blindly follow your heart without thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, I see his point.
Yeah, and to be fair, the book doesn't really go into any of that.
Okay, so it's not exactly a nuanced look at decision-making.
Right.
Or, like the fact that things don't always work out.
Not really, no.
Okay, so that's something to keep in mind.
Definitely.
But let's move past the writing for a second.
Sure.
What about the actual, content of the book?
Right.
Is there anything unique about Santiago's journey?
Well...
Or is it just another, self-discovery story?
That's where it gets a little more interesting, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. The Alchemist, it introduces this concept of a personal legend.
A personal legend.
Yeah, which is basically like your purpose in life,
Okay.
And Santiago's journey, it's all about following his personal legend no matter what.
So that does sound kind of unique.
Right. And while it might seem a little simple at first,
Yeah.
it actually brings up some pretty big questions,
Like what kinds of questions?
Well, like, how do we know what our personal legend even is? Or, like, how do we balance our dreams with, our responsibilities to other people?
Right.
And what happens when our personal legend isn't all sunshine and roses?
Okay, so it's not just like a follow your bless kind of story.
Not exactly, no.
Huh. Okay, so it's actually more complex than it seems.
I think so, yeah. And I think that's why it resonates with so many people.
You think so?
Yeah, it asks these really big questions in a way that anyone can understand, even if the answers it gives are a little too simple for some people.
Okay. I can kind of see the appeal now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before we get too deep into the meaning of life and all that,
Sure.
you mentioned some comparisons to other books.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like the Celestine Prophecy and Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Right. Those are in the stack. Yeah.
Yeah, so how does The Alchemist stack up?
Well, they all deal with self-discovery and spirituality and stuff, but they approach it in different ways. Like the Celestine Prophecy, it's more about hidden knowledge and spiritual insights.
Okay.
And Jonathan Livingston Seagull is more of a fable about transcending limitations and achieving freedom.
Okay.
But The Alchemist, it's really focused on pursuing a specific goal.
Like the personal legend.
Exactly. It's about taking risks, overcoming obstacles, learning from the journey itself.
So it's more action-oriented?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, but what about all the criticisms?
Right.
I mean, we talked about the writing style and maybe oversimplifying things.
Right.
But there are some pretty harsh reviews in here.
Oh, yeah, there are some really scathing ones.
What are they saying?
Well, one reviewer, Warwood, I think,
Yeah.
he called it an inexhaustible stream of cliches.
Ouch.
Yeah, he basically said the profound lessons were just recycled platitudes.
Mhm.
And honestly, I can see his point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the book does rely a lot on like universal truths and archetypes.
Mhm.
But is that necessarily a bad thing?
I don't know. I guess it depends if you find those truths, like resonant or just tired.
Exactly. Some people, they hear those familiar truths and it's like it hits them in a new way.
Because of Santiago's journey.
Right. But for others, it's just like reading a fortune cookie.
Yeah, true. Okay, so that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the portrayal of women in the book?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm seeing some stuff about Fania.
Yeah.
Like, is she a strong, independent woman, or is she just there for the plot?
That's one of the most debated parts of the book, for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Fatima, she's this desert woman who embodies wisdom and intuition.
Okay.
She encourages Santiago to follow his dreams, even when it means, like, leaving her behind. So some people, they see her as a symbol of, like, feminine strength and selflessness.
Okay.
But others, they feel like she's not really a fully developed character.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he just kind of leaves her to go do his own thing
Right.
doesn't exactly make it a feminist masterpiece.
No, it's definitely a complicated issue, and I think it reflects the book's tendency towards, like, archetype and simplicity.
Right, so Fatima, she represents like an ideal,
Yeah, like a certain kind of feminine energy.
but not like a real person.
Right.
Okay, so we've got the simple writing,
Mhm.
maybe oversimplified messages,
Right.
and now a questionable portrayal of women.
Yeah.
Are we seeing a pattern here?
Maybe so. And I think it comes back to that question of, like, what are you looking for in a book, you know?
Okay,
Like, if you want nuanced characters and complex plots and all that,
right,
The Alchemist is probably going to disappoint you.
okay.
But if you're open to something more, like, allegorical, like a fable with a simple message,
About following your dreams?
right, then it might actually really resonate with you.
Okay, I'm getting a much better sense of it now. But
Yeah.
before we make a final call,
Sure.
let's talk about the ending.
Okay.
You said it's where things get really interesting
Oh, yeah.
and even more divisive.
Mhm.
So what happens?
Well, he finds the treasure.
He does.
Yeah, but not in the way you might expect. For the
Oh.
treasure, it represents his personal legend.
Hmm.
So what he discovers is that the journey itself,
Yeah.
the lessons he learned, the people he met,
Mm.
that's all part of the treasure.
So it's like a symbolic treasure.
Exactly. And that's where some people get lost.
How's that?
They want like a concrete reward, you know,
Oh,
a big chest of gold or something.
right.
But for others, that realization that the real treasure is within.
That the journey is the destination.
Right. That's really powerful for them.
I can see how that would be polarizing.
Definitely.
It's a very metaphorical ending,
It is.
and that's not for everyone.
Right. And to make things even more interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't find the treasure at the pyramids.
He doesn't.
No.
Wait, so he goes all the way to Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
faces all these challenges,
Right.
and then the thing he's looking for is back in Spain,
Exact.
where he started. Whoa.
It's a twist, right?
That's a big twist.
And some people, they find it really profound, but others think it's just a cop-out.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So before we give our final verdict,
Yeah.
are there any other books that explore these same ideas,
Oh, yeah.
but in a way that might be like more satisfying
Sure.
for people who aren't sold on The Alchemist?
Yeah, you mentioned Siddhartha earlier,
Mhm.
and that's a really good example.
How so?
Well, it also deals with a spiritual journey,
Okay.
but it's much more focused on, like, internal exploration and philosophical stuff.
So it's less about like achieving a goal
Yeah,
and more about just like understanding existence.
exactly.
So if The Alchemist is about doing,
Mm.
Siddhartha is about being.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, cool. And are there any others?
Let's see. Oh, The Prophet
The Prophet.
by Kahlil Gibran.
Okay.
It's a collection of essays,
Okay.
but they're really poetic.
Huh.
And they cover all sorts of things like love, work, the meaning of life.
Okay, so it's like more philosophical.
Yeah, it's beautifully written, and it will definitely give you a lot to think about.
Okay. Even if it's not like a typical story like
Right.
The Alchemist.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got some alternatives.
I do.
But what about The Alchemist itself?
Right.
Is it worth reading?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I think it depends on what you're looking for. If you want a light, inspirational read
Mm-hmm.
with a simple message
Yeah.
about following your dreams,
Okay.
and you're not bothered by the simple writing,
Right.
or, you know, maybe some problematic stuff with gender,
Yeah.
then The Alchemist might be for you.
Okay.
It's a quick read, it's thought-provoking in its own way,
Mm-hmm.
and it started a lot of conversations about, life and passion and all that. But if you're looking for something more complex,
Yeah.
with nuanced characters and, a deeper exploration of the human condition,
Mm-hmm.
then you might want to skip this one. There are
Right.
plenty of other books out there that do that.
Right. And we've talked about some of them.
Exactly. So ultimately, the choice is yours.
All right. Fair enough. So we've laid it all out there.
We have.
Now it's up to you, dear listener, to decide if The Alchemist is a journey you want to take. So I think we've given our listener a lot to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely a book that gets people talking.
For sure. And it's strong opinions on both sides.
And I think that's what makes it so interesting,
How so?
Well, it forces us to think about our own beliefs.
About like destiny and purpose and all that.
Exactly.
And speaking of examining our beliefs,
Yeah.
there's one thing in your notes that really stood out to me.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
You mentioned a reviewer who was like really struck by that image of Santiago carrying the spoonful of oil through the palace.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a powerful image.
What do you think it symbolizes?
Well, I think it speaks to the idea of mindfulness,
Okay.
like staying present even when there are distractions everywhere.
Right.
Santiago, he's so focused on not spilling the oil
Mm-hmm.
that he becomes super aware of everything around him.
Like he's noticing things he wouldn't have otherwise.
Exactly.
That's a great interpretation.
Thanks.
It could also be a metaphor for balance, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How do we chase our dreams without losing sight of the present moment?
Right, like how do we find that equilibrium?
Exactly. And it's something the Alchemist reminds us of.
It does, even if it's a very simple book.
Yeah, so even if someone decides not to read it after all this, they can still take away that lesson about mindfulness and balance.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of literature,
How so?
Well, even if we don't agree with everything a book says,
Right.
or if we don't like the writing style or whatever, there's always something to learn from it.
New perspectives to consider.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up,
Sure.
would you say The Alchemist is more of a starting point?
A starting point.
Yeah, like a gateway to deeper exploration.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it can definitely spark a curiosity, like a desire to learn more about purpose and meaning.
Right, and then from there, it's up to the reader to go further.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I think we've given our listener plenty to think about.
I hope so.
They've got the pros, the cons, some other books to check out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, it's really up to them
It is.
to decide if The Alchemist is the right book for them.
Exactly.
So, dear listener, happy reading.